I'm going to start. Hi, my name is Archana, and I believe I'm a poet. I've been christened this year. The first poem I'm going to start, it's actually in Urdu. I will do the Urdu part first, and then I will do the translation. It's called Shahenshah, the King of Kings. उनकी वो बातें देखो सरहद पार करने की कहा करते हैं। शहंशाह है दुनिया के, धरती उखाड़ के आगे जाने की आदत रखते हैं। उनकी नज़र ने देखा दिलकश नज़ारे बेशुमार, पर जब देखा मुखड़ा तेरा दलेरी कहाँ काम करती है। उनकी वो आँखें देखो अब उनकी निगाहें दिखती है। उनकी वो बाहें देखो तेरी बेकरारी में गुजरते हैं। उनकी वो राहें देखो गलियों में भटकते रहते हैं। उनकी जो ख्वाहिश समझो पिया की आग में दिनों रात कटते हैं। अब नकाब के पीछे देखो तेरे लिए तड़प तड़प के मरते हैं। फातेह आज़म है तो क्या हुआ, मोहब्बत में शहंशाह भी सर झुकाया करते हैं। So quick translation. Pay attention to his words. He talks of crossing every border there is. He is the King of Kings. He has a habit of uprooting everything that is in his way. His eyes have seen countless wonders in this world. But when finally his gaze fell upon your face, what good is his bravery? Now look at his eyes. You can see her eyes in his. Now look at his shoulders. You can see them yearn for her. Now look at his path. He wanders around looking for her. Now understand what his wishes are made of. He dreams of his beloved day and night. Now look behind this mask of his. He pines for you and dies 1,000 deaths. And so what if he is the king of the worlds? Even kings, when in love, bow down their heads. My next poem, I think it may resonate with a lot of women who are moms. This was what I wrote around that time. Just gave birth. Not just gave birth, a little after I gave birth, and I wanted to go back to work. Hot water, it's called choices. Hot water washes over the hands that are washing the dishes. Eyes wander out to the kids playing outside, and she wishes her weary wanderlust heart could break away beyond this window, far from these white picket fences. So she could laugh again like those kids, know a joy unfettered. So she could dance again in abandon, her feet naturally unruly. To fit in or not fit in has been the eternal dilemma. Whether to conform or run wild, now there is no question about what is right. Because back then, wings were tied by wretched fear as they were about to take flight. Fears keeping creatures of the air close to the ground wound tight. Youth is truly wasted on the young, being practical, a practice she wished she had never begun. Ungainly and unwilling, she wades now in the sea of those tamed by life. The thin veil of expected pretension, a disguise for civility ill-worn. She was awkward at her very best amidst these well-bred citizens of convention. She gazes wistful at her cobwebbed writings and then at her old office badge, her identity identified by some denizens of disciplined drudgery, to which belongs the somber corporate tag. What is left to lose anymore? She must choose and endure, or she must ensure nothing shall be lost anymore.
First one is going to be sort of a continuation of what she said. It's from the section Mother and Child. A loving presence. They follow me everywhere when the fragrance of a distant flower floats in the morning air. When a busy day's chores leave no moments to spare. When the sun kisses goodbye to a blushing west sky, in the silence of the night, whether I sleep like a log or sit tight, I know that they are there. I remember discovering their presence so loving when life danced and sang, shaping my womb in its play. Suddenly I felt them watching from above, behind, and the sides, ceaselessly sending eternal blessings and love. And I knew that they looked like my mother's eyes. This one is from the section called Hope and Despair. There was a time in my life when I worked with battered women, and a lot of the gut churning happened at that time. Winter blossoms, and this is also the poem after which the book is named. Winter blossoms. The red bud tree in my backyard is dressed in bright pink, fooled by the unusual mid-January warmth. Surely it's spring, it says. The weatherman shakes his head. The Alaskan front is days away from stripping off that beautiful attire. Malati, when you say, surely he's going to change when he sees his baby kick and cry and touches the tender skin, after all, isn't it his own flesh and blood? When you try not to remember how he left you to bleed alone, to starve, not caring if his baby in your womb kicked or not, I feel like the weatherman, knowing that the battering front is only days away from turning your hope into despair. I don't know how many people here have been to the Enchanted Rock. I know the out-of-towners won't be. It's like a big ramp, never-ending big ramp. The first time I was there, it was very windy there. This is my concluding haiku. On the Enchanted Rock, wind blew through my ears. I am your first and last friend, it yelled. Do you hear?
Thank you, Usha. Thank you, Matwala. I and my poet friend Vincent Salucci translated these poems. I write in Bengali. 1,000 years I waited for this evening. On the river bank you chose to force the river the witness of its own story. Luminaries span the bridge darkness lit. I skimmed gracefully on the stream of gathered words. 1,000 years I waited for this evening. The river is today listening. It is listening indeed. You intuited my tender tongue, my words swaddled in your words. The flow of translation eases. Downstream the words present, roaring at the center of the river. You recognized my waves, and so even the stretching river shivered. When my bundle of words gazed the other bank, the clouds caressed the skies so gently that the drops lowered down the beyond. How simply you said, luckily the sky has cried, so we don't have to. How sky saturated today, away from the ground it hovered. The sky cried precisely how it should have. Still the poems became blurry. Tears beyond the translation, tears beyond the length of the river. 1,000 years I waited for this evening. The river has seen today. It has seen indeed. But you didn't realize that on this day, the sky will be waiting again at the end of tears. And again the river will resume, channeling my words in your words. You'll certainly choose the river bank again on that day. The river will have evening to witness its own story. be no one. You may be an oak tree if you are an artist. You may be the Mississippi if you are a poet. You may be earth, puddle, rain and storm. You may be morning, late evening, night and dawn. You may be so many things. You will be so many things. You can sing for many days in absurd imagination. You can walk for many days in extreme loneliness. You keep dreaming for your satisfaction shatters moments of my dream's felicity. Do you really want to be an oak tree at the end of the story and cast a net with your roots in earth? It is your wish. I will ornament your branches with leaves. Do you really want to be the Mississippi at the end of the story, rushing towards your mouth? It is your wish. I will tenderly caress your current. Every day you become an artist or a singer or a poet. Today you will be no one. You will cup your hands to pool my absolute tears until the last breaking day. This is my wish. Afterwards, you may fade away into an invisible guarantee. You will be an artist if you are an oak tree. You will be a poet if you are the river. The last one. Distance, how far you are. In the beginning, there was distance. Exactly how far, I could not know. Time hibernates, unseen for days. Monsoon has come and gone, puddles form exact shapes to slip across. The oak draws its shadow in a visible distance, completing a lonely evening. The distance loses its patience, condenses into images, consumed in melancholy. The distance displays its indifference, shut me in poems until dawn, yet still orbits, urged to consummate the distance. Time hunts, wish it would gather for days, to so would sew together distance and me. The shadow of the oak tree spans across the mud road. In the beginning, there was distance. Exactly how far, I could not know. If only the sudden rain of Louisiana washed out all the distance, spread the distance of the oak branches sank, the distance in the sound of the river. Time courses, escaping my grasp. Spring has come and gone, colored our circumference drunk. The oak shadow expands past recognition. In the beginning, there was distance. Whether we meet at the distance or not, I could not know. Thank you.
Our last local poet of this afternoon is Shubh Bala Sheezer, whom many of you know. And Shubh, please come up. Stage is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Can you hear me? After hearing so many philosophical, deep, and then children poem, and then other very beautiful poems, I'm going to read very simple, some memories of my childhood. The first one is Kite Flying Spring. And you know, in Delhi, when we were growing up, all children, they fly kite. And being a girl, I was tagged along behind my brother, age 8 or 9. My brother maneuvered the kite to cut the strings of others with our own line, sharpened by the coating of manja, the glass powder that I was allowed to apply, though I really long to do the flying myself. Lifted by the spring wind like a falcon and spinning beneath a frisbee sun, our paper bird snapped the wings of another paper bird. Bokata, we cut the line, we shouted at the somersaulting as we ran faster and faster to claim the corpse, which we found tangled in a tree as unreachable as a squirrel's nest or my dream of flying the kite myself. While my brother climbed the tree in the silence of the golden sky, I returned home holding a spindle, wondering why girls could not fly the kite. Why? This second one is also about a memory of childhood, where once we played. Oh, how those swings tied on branches quivered in our courtyard. We sang monsoon songs while henna ran from our hands. We swung in smooth curves until darkness circled our feet. A playful moon rose slowly, swinging with us up and down, high and low. Shadows turned purple. Frogs croaked in puddles. The loud racket of crickets made us nervous. We ran fast for home. Our ankles jingled like melodies from the years gone by. The swings we climbed, now fragile like our aging bones. This is again about childhood, age 8, 9. My brother and myself, we are just on the roof eating hail. So the title is Out Stealing Hail. December was unbearably cold. Heavy downpour and hailstorms trapped us in our room when Grandma said, "Stay inside, it's very dark out there." Soon, hail pounded the roof. Our heartbeats thrilled as we followed the ripple of the thoughts that led us sneaking quickly to the roof. Hailstones the size of marbles swirled in blinding whiteness in the dark. Hypnotized, we slid on a snowy coverlet, opened our mouths and filled them with exotic frozen rain. When the hail slowed, my brother got up and moved around, grabbed a large chunk from the corner of the roof and bit with a crunching sound. A pink lizard fell out of his mouth and skittered away as confused as we were. My brother gripped his stomach with both hands, coughing as though in case he had swallowed a lizard. In my panic, I dragged him downstairs to my grandmother. She washed his mouth, chanting Hanuman Chalisa to ward the evil and cursing the bad weather and looking at me with wide eyes. I don't know why. Morning conversation. Daybreak swallow, twittering on the clotheslines in my courtyard, bobbing your tan head, looking down at me. Let me finish my sleep, dream in the sweet breath of the dawn. In spring you lined your nest with straw and twigs. Your sweet singing warmed the frail hearts of nestlings. Now, in summer's passion, you strike a gentle chord again and lay an egg on your perch, which falls on the ground in a splash of yellow. I wonder who spoiled your nest. All you do, tilt your head towards me, then fly away. The next one is about my mother. I was here when she died and I went quite late. My mother. I lay quietly in her bed, covered my face with her comforter. Breathing her scent, I burst into loud cries. How quickly the place has changed. A faded, lustreless bed cover and dusty carpet.